Okay. I don't know exactly why I'm recording this, but for once I'm just like listening to my gut and I'm doing it. So, yeah. Let me just give you a little background on what's going on. For the past hmm, for the past three uh, ever since around around the release of the cross hatching album, um I've been dealing with a very complicated case of obsessive compulsive disorder, which, for any who don't know, is like a, a, a branch of mental illness. It's basically just like a really hardcore version of an anxiety disorder. Um, and it's been difficult. It's always difficult, but lately it's been particularly, I guess, debilitating, if you want to call it that. So the way it kind of works for me, as opposed to your more regular milk toast OCD, where you kind of just like wash your hands 7 times, or like things to be tidy or whatever, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. For me, I have something called pure O, which means all the compulsions and obsessions, all of that happens inside my head. And in reality, well, in theory, it feels, it seems like it's easier, because of course, like, you're not physically doing anything. But in practice, really what happens is I create these like thought loops, for me to get anxious about, nervous about, and by by consequence, I get completely paralyzed, because that is occupying my mind. Think about it kind of like, those goats, those like mountain goats that you scare them and they freeze. Well, it's kind of like that. Like, I a lot of the time will lose my ability to speak. I become unresponsive. And that's like when there's I guess like an attack. But at best, I am completely detached from the outside world, because I'm running through these repetitive loops of thought in my head pretty much every single day. But like the whole time that I'm awake, there's something going on. There's something going on right now, for instance. And I take medication for it. I've been on and off different medication for the past couple of years. I don't know how much they do for me. But I'm not gonna stop taking them, because might as well, you know what I mean? But so lately, it's been very, very difficult to do anything. Um, in the past couple of years, I've been so anxious and so easily consumed by this. I actually developed a psychosomatic skin disorder, where my hands are kind of constantly covered in sores. It's kind of like the the stuff you would get after you burn yourself, that kind of thing, but without the actual event of you burning yourself, only the aftermath of that. So for the most part, for the big chunk of the last couple of years, my hands have been basically covered in open wounds to a certain degree. And whenever I have like a doctor checkup on something like that, it's I get something along the lines of don't stress so much. But no actual, no actual suggestions as to how not to, or as to how to relax or something. Which is, again, is not their job. They're not therapists, but it's just feels kind of futile. But lately, all these things have been very active, let's say. They've been a source of creative input before. There's plenty of songs that I've done about these kinds of things. But right now it's come to a point where I've exhausted that fountain of ideas, and the issues attached to them are still there, because otherwise I'd be writing the same song over and over. Because the thing with OCD is that it's all repetition. So I have like a list of topics for me to obsess over. Basically, I didn't come up with this list consciously. It's just basically a certain amount of things that make me uncomfortable, make me anxious, or amplify my feelings of inadequacy. And they just repeat over and over and over in my head. Let me give you kind of an example of how this works so you can understand. Let's say someone says, like, when you go to a party and da 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 da. I got stuck there. I got stuck at party because I've never been to a party, and I don't really want to, but that's besides the point. What I'm thinking about is I've never been to a party, and then that activates like a chain of like, oh, I've never been to a party, therefore I'm somewhat of a loser, and since I'm a loser and this person isn't, I am not fit to interact with this person, and that might cause for me to cut contact with this person because I feel too far away from them, or I feel like they're too adequate to be interacting with me. Stuff like that. And that's really what it boils down to. All my kind of sessions are just about how inadequate I feel as a person, or more so like how I don't really feel like I'm as much a person as most other people. feel very incomplete. And you can blame that on whatever you want. My my formative years weren't very formative, if you will. I didn't really do much. Be it by my own accord or by just life circumstances. Like I said, I've never gone to a party or anything like that. Like and it's just, you know, let's say I didn't get to make any mistakes as a kid or as a teenager, stuff like that. I just, it just did. There's a lot in those like special important years that just didn't happen in my life. It just didn't happen for one reason or another. It just I there's a gap there where there's like a 5 year, 7 year gap where just all I could do was, I don't know, record songs and put them out and draw, and that was about it, really. Maybe go to the bathroom, you know. And in isolation, I didn't talk to anyone, of course, in that time. I really didn't really interact with anyone, particularly not physically. The only friends that I had, the only people at all that I had were my friends Gabby and Kevin, which, shout out, they've always been there for me. But they're far away, they're in different countries, and so in my earthly physical life, I really didn't do anything except for music. And I'm proud of what I did in that time. I'm proud of having like such a prolific discography at the age that I am, but it came at the cost of a lot of life experience, really, and like just stupid shit that teenagers do and stuff like that. I just didn't do. And not that I particularly would want to. It's not stuff that I would like to do now. And because now that I'm an adult, you could say like, oh yeah, I have all the agency in the world to do whatever the fuck I want, so I could do that. It's really not. It's uninteresting to do those things, but I am aware of the ritualistic, cultural, social kind of weight that they have, particularly on someone that's growing up. Like, I don't know, parties, drinking, just, shagging about, whatever it may be. I mean, and to this day, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. It's just stuff that never really interested me. But because of that, I feel so disconnected from anyone my age, or anyone older than me for that matter. And at this point, anyone younger than me as well. So it's just, that's what my thoughts will zero in on. That's always in the back of my mind. Sometimes at the front, these days at the front, and that's the issue. It's kind of consuming my life at this point. It's just always happening, and I'm so mentally tired all the time. I haven't been able to mix the songs for the new album. I haven't. Everything is slowed down because my head doesn't stop ever, and it's all bad stuff, So honestly, I'm just really, really, really tired, and I feel very alone. And that's not something that I'm saying to like, instill pity or whatever. Like, I'm explaining what's happening because I feel like I have to. Why do I feel like I have to? Because something in me is telling me to mention it, and so I am. But I've always felt this way. It's just once you become an adult, there's some responsibilities that you can't avoid. Becoming part of society exposes you to other people, and once I came out of my isolation as a teenager, and was exposed to other people, all these kind of gaps or all this distance between me and other people became more obvious. And my deeply rooted insecurities about these things became impossible to ignore. And it's come to a point where it's consuming my life. And I don't know what I'm seeking to get from this. I'm not necessarily asking for help because this isn't anyone's responsibility. I just wanted to maybe say it out loud, you know? Because it's very hard to kind of articulate what's going on. And when someone asks me how have you been, and I'm just like, not great, and they ask like why, it's like it's very hard to kind of explain what's happening because it's so long-winded. There's so much to say to actually to properly portray what's happening. And even though I am the most, I have the best, I feel that I know that I have the most support that I've ever had, not only as an artist but also just I have like an amazing relationship and a loving family. I have never felt so alone. And it's killing me. That's it, really. That's at the core of it. I've always felt this way. It's just becoming impossible to ignore. You know what's funny? There's a distortion pedal called the OCD. Stands for obsessive compulsive drive. And would be so funny if I had one, but I don't. It's actually kind of I'm into its distortion profile. I kind of like it, so I guess that's something to look forward to get that at some point and just kind of like have it be a nod to my head on my feet. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. It's very rambly, very scrambled. Doesn't make much sense, but it made sense to me. And yeah, that's all. Really. If you're watching this part, I'm thank you, really. I don't know. Thank you. For the time being, I promise you there's gonna be a new album soon. I've been working really, really hard at it, and I'm really nervous to know what you all might think, because it's a little different. No, not very different, but it's a little different. It's a little more broad. I'm singing in Spanish sometimes. Whoop. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, you can look forward to that instead of my rambling. All right. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll see you soon. You'll see me soon. I don't see anything when I record. I see a phone or a camera, but you know what I mean. All right. Bye bye.